Welcome into the Off-Brand Sports Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be doing our deep dives on the Boston Celtics and the Vancouver Canucks. But before that, we do have some interesting sports news this week, both good and bad. Let's start with the bad news first. Let's talk to Deshaun Jackson. Marshall, why don't you go ahead and kick it off for us here?
Deshaun Jackson comes out and posts a pretty anti-Semitic tweet, and then with his apology, he comes out and says, "Oh, I'm not anti-Semitic in any way." I'm not going to get into the details of the actual tweet, just because it was pretty bad. But, I mean, I just don't really know what he was thinking at the time of, no matter how he feels about anything, why he thought that was a good idea to go out there and tweet something from, I think everyone knows who he thought the tweet was by.
Yeah, it was a quote that was attributed to a dictator that we can't say on YouTube or we'll be in trouble. But it actually wasn't. It's actually a misquote. It wasn't actually from him, but Deshaun Jackson thought it was.
But it still means the same thing. I guess for a little bit more context, he's calling a certain group of people rulers of the world, and they have a secret plot. You guys probably know that certain group of people who some crazy people think that. But the thing that I don't like about this comment is obviously it's anti-Semitic, and the fact that afterwards he doubles down. And same with what's his name, Billy again, Steven Jackson.
Steven Jackson was the other one that was involved.
Steven Jackson comes out and says that he's speaking truce. So we're at an interesting point here where
definitely
it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes forward.
Yeah, race relations in the year 2020 are basically at a real low
I mean, they've
point.
gone from 50% decent to 20%. They've just declined. Bad,
it's not
worse than they were.
We were never in a good place, but it's gotten worse and worse, and now it's not just kind of racism towards blacks. Now we're kind of branching out into all the races are kind of getting mad at each other. It'll be
right.
I'd love to see everyone just get along, but I know that's it's going to take a lot of work to get to that point.
To bring that back to sports, I feel like having sports back will help get a lot of people, out of the politics a little bit. I'm sure the sports lag has, thrown a lot of people into the fray, so to speak. So I'm excited for sports to get back and, help people cope with what's going on right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it'll give them an extra voice, too.
Exactly.
Which a lot of people are saying that they want to sit out of, the bubble because they're trying to, focus on the specific movements that they're passionate about, which is, fine, I guess. But then I feel like you have a really big voice if you're going into the bubble because so many people are going to be paying attention to you and your team. And there's different platforms. Like the NBA came out and said that they can pretty much put whatever on their nameplates. So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like protest, to the players, protest however you see fit. But definitely there's all kinds of ways to do it. So sitting out might not be the only way to do it. Maybe that is the best way to do it. I don't know. I don't know what would work, There's been a lot of attempts at protests recently, and it seems like some things seem to work a little bit, some things seem to not work at all, and just what will get the message across. So maybe try different things. We'll have to see what players decide to do, and hopefully if they can actually make some noise.
Yep.
Okay, do you have something, Marshall?
No.
All right, let's get into the good news. Our boy got paid. Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year contract. Add that on to the 2 years to finish out his current deal, and he is with the Chiefs for the next 12 years. Patrick Mahomes has signed through his 36-year-old season is when Patrick Mahomes' deal will expire. Roughly $503 million is the value that's getting thrown around. That's the max value to actually hit $503 million. He'd have to win 10 consecutive MVPs and 10 consecutive Super Bowls. So he's not actually going to make
AFC championships.
Oh, okay. So
a little bit more realistic.
Still not particularly realistic. So he'll probably be closer to about $450 million. The guaranteed value is $140 million. It's a lot of money, no matter how you look at it. What do you guys think of this deal?
To me, I love the deal, and Patrick Mahomes deserves every single penny of this deal. He's a superstar and brought the team to where they are today. But I just have a problem with long-term contracts like this. They just scare me. Looking back into the past, just long-term contracts can come back to bite teams right in the booty. Just the Islanders popped to mind with Rick DiPietro. I know that's kind of an out there comparison.
I mean, that's a good one, though.
Just,
another hockey one. Ryan Suter and Zach Parise on Minnesota.
Yes, them too. Those are long contracts, and they just haven't lived up to it. Not that I don't think Mahomes can. It's just long contracts kind of scare me.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is the NFL salary cap is expanding quite a bit faster than the NHL is, so I think by year 8, 9, 10 of this deal, it will be a reasonably good deal. So I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here. I like that they got him signed for so long because I think that maybe by the end of this deal, it's not that monster contract that it is right now. Because right now it's a little bit prohibitive, but I think towards the end it won't be.
Right, and the reason I bring up Rick DiPietro is because of injury reasons. I just don't want to see Mahomes get hurt and then
that's fair. It is a risk.
Being paid for the next 7 years or whatever it is,
Well, like Billy was saying, it's not $450 million guaranteed. It's $120 million guaranteed.
140,
so there are
140
million guaranteed. So there are protections in place for the Chief,
right,
if in case Mahomes gets hurt. Which, I mean, he seems like he's pretty resilient. He hasn't had like a big time injury quite yet. So another thing though is the deal is really back heavy, so a lot of his money is on the back end, like Billy was saying, and then by that time the salary cap is gonna go up probably pretty exponentially 6 to 10 years from now. I mean, we may even see Dak get paid this much, which would be absolutely bonkers.
I hope
still. And so, I mean, he's still putting the Chiefs in solid contention window over the next 5 years due to the fact that his contract is back heavy, and then so they can go out and sign some guys right now to make a couple other solid pushes for the Super Bowl. And then once he does start making like a lot of money, then hopefully the salary cap will be implemented or go up a lot more than it is right now, and then they can still go out and sign some more players.
Definitely. All right, Karim, any thoughts on the Mahomes deal?
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like obviously this sounds kind of silly, but I feel like that he gave him a hometown discount. He just wanted to stay in Kansas City, so I think he allowed the contract to be kind of backloaded. I'm sure they're going to revisit the contract in like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, there's always room for renegotiations.
Yeah. Right.
I got a question about the... Okay, go ahead, Karim. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I just wanted to ask, how many Super Bowls do you think he wins in this 12-year span?
I was going to ask
I want to say 5, but honestly, if I'm being realistic, 2 or 3 feels like...
That's what I was thinking.
I think you can get 2 more, yeah.
I'm thinking, Mahomes ends up with 3 Super Bowls in his career.
It's weird because he's
so
so
hard
good, so young.
NFL.
But, and you know that Mahomes is nasty, and he looks like he's young, so it's hard to say this, but I think he'll go down as one of the all-time greats. But I don't know. Even the all-time greats haven't won that many Super Bowls, so I don't know. I think he probably wins a couple in his career, but I don't know how many.
All the quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl MVP and an MVP are in the Hall of Fame right now or are bound for the Hall of Fame. I think the only 3 that aren't, out of, I think there's like 13 quarterbacks are Manning, which, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
Yeah.
Brady,
Tom Brady.
First ballot Hall of Famer.
And I think Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right.
I think that's the other one. I can't. You might want to fact check me on that one, but still.
An interesting one that
Mahomes
came
has
pretty
done
close
it in 3 years. Yeah, and Mahomes has done it in 3 years. So
yeah, that's insane.
If you're looking at it, he's already done enough to be considered like one of the all-time greats. So
wow, yeah.
I mean, probably not quite yet, but still.
It's just incredible to watch this kid. Unless he pulls an Andrew Luck and just retires super early. That's another thing. I actually want to talk about that a little bit. Because you mentioned Dak Prescott as another guy that kind of walked away from a similar kind of deal. A guy that could get a similar kind of deal. Andrew Luck retired, and now looking at the deal Mahomes got, Luck probably could have gotten a similar deal. Maybe not quite as much, but very close. He retired and walked away from probably almost $400-500 million.
Yeah, but then Luck would have had to sign, what, 2 years ago?
No, I believe this year actually would be the year he'd get the extension. He and Mahomes were set to expire in the same year. And then, actually, no, they were set to get the extension the same year. Mahomes still has 2 years left, so Andrew Luck would have been I guess he'd be 30 now, so he wouldn't have gotten 10 years, but he could have given Luck 7 years at $50 million a year, something like that. And that's what he walked away from when he retired.
I mean, yeah.
What's
the
Luck's
price
first
of brain
contract,
trauma?
though?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I was
that's
about
true.
to ask. That's true.
And Luck still probably made a decent amount of money.
Oh, he's still
Yeah,
set.
I'm sure.
He's
He's
set.
not going to worry about money for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he's got
But
generational
he could have
wealth for
worried
sure.
even less about money. I don't know. It's just thinking about it, though. He definitely left a lot of money on the table. But,
Right.
that
If he
was
wanted to,
how he
though.
felt about it. He could come back if he wanted, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He could. Another thing is he seems like a really bright, young man.
Yeah.
And, Stanford
man?
graduate. Yeah, I mean he's not.
He's
Yeah, I
only
didn't
like
really
10
want to
years
call him
older
a
than us.
kid. I didn't really want to call him a kid or anything. But,
Nah, bro. I'm just teasing you. Yeah, what are you saying?
but I'm sure he's already doing something out there. I'm not even too sure. But then if you wanted to get into broadcasting or some type of role with an NFL team, I'm sure anyone would want to hire Andrew Luck. And the amount of money that these broadcasters are making is crazy. Tony Romo signed a $12 million a year contract with.
Yeah, he's making almost as much to broadcast as he could play quarterback. So,
Yeah, so
definitely.
I think Luck is going to be just fine.
He'll be all right.
But,
Definitely.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go ahead here and get into our bet segment. Looking back at last week, Zach and I both bet on Tottenham. I bet on them to win and score first. Zach just bet on them to win, but it hit. We both won
Let's
last week, so
go.
we're moving up in the world. Marshall bet on Arenado to lead the NL in home runs, so that one is still pending. Marshall has 2 pending futures bets at the moment. Zach also has 1. But with my win last week, I did take the lead. I am sitting at $20.34. Marshall closely following with $18.10. And Zach at $2.60, but on a hot streak of 1 win so
Let's
far.
go.
This week, we have an interesting one. So, DraftKings is where we're getting a lot of our odds, and this week they're giving out a really good odds boost of Usman to win his fight this week at plus 500, boosted from minus 263. But there is a $10 cap on that, which means that only 2 of us were allowed to take that one. So when I found the bet, I texted these 2, and I said, hey, whoever responds first gets to go in on this with me. And Zach beat Marshall to it. So that is, for both of us, that is our bet this week. If you're someone who does any kind of sports betting and you're on DraftKings, I highly recommend you put $10 on that. It's $10 to win 50.
50.
And, yeah, and the implied odds are at about 73% based on his actual odds to win the fight. So a really, really good bet.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting, though, this whole Fight Island thing.
Oh, I'm so ready.
Cool.
It's going to be sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
It'll be fun to watch. So we could actually, $25 each if we win it. We could put Marshall in the dust here. But Marshall
that'd be nice.
is taking a bit of a swing of his own. Marshall, why don't you tell us about your bet?
Yeah. Well, so if I win this bet, you guys are both screwed.
Yeah, basically.
So I'm taking the odds boost on John Ram to win this weekend's PGA Tour event. It was just a little bit of a boost. I think it was boosted 150 or something. But plus 1405 to win the tournament.
Yeah, boosted from plus
And-
1300.
Yeah, okay, so 105, I guess he was boosted, which isn't huge, but then, if he ends up winning, it could be beneficial. Here I go again, betting on golf. Probably going to lose again.
Yeah, that's a hard one to bet on for sure.
I think you're
Yeah,
looks
but-
like you're 500 on golf so far, so not bad.
This is a pretty
But not
solid
on
record.
the ones that I've, taken big swings on to hit, Kepka,
That's
those type
true.
of things.
Yeah, okay. So, definitely, we're starting to heat up. I want to explain to our viewers, because I haven't explained, I actually don't know if Zach or Marshall know this either, but the way I've calculated like the numbers that you see on the screen, like our totals, all the futures bets just count as $5 because they're kind of neutral. We put $5 on them, so like Marshall has 8-10 guaranteed, but he also has 2 futures bets, which is what brings him to 18-10. So just in case anyone is curious about how these numbers are calculated, that's why they are what they are.
Awesome.
All right. Anyone have anything to say before we move into our segments? Marshall?
Sports is almost coming back.
It is. I'm excited. Like, what are we at? We're at 3
MLB,
weeks? Yeah, for MLB even closer.
MLB comes back. I think they play like 2 games
23rd?
on the 23rd and then have like 15 games on the 24th.
Oh, wow.
15 days away. 2 weeks almost exactly. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're gonna have we're not gonna be betting on UFC and PGA all the time anymore in the EPL. We're gonna be betting on NHL, NBA, NFL, and we're gonna hopefully make more money doing that because we know what we're talking about and aren't just taking random swings. But let's
Did
get
you
into
guys happen to
go
see?
ahead.
Did you guys happen to see what the layout for the NHL's return to play is? Like when their games are going to be played?
So they're going to be doing 3 games a day in each bubble, essentially, which like back to back to back. It's going to be hockey all day. It's going to be amazing.
It's 12 p.m., 4 p.m., and 8 p.m. And with the 2-hour difference, there's going to be hockey all fucking day.
Basically, you get to watch 6 straight games. It's going to be amazing.
So awesome.
Yes.
And dude, with the NBA playing, MLB playing, hopefully everything just doesn't shut down because then I'll be really sad.
Yeah, that'd be disappointing.
Dude, I mean, in early August, we could have the 4 major sports going. I mean,
yeah, that'll be
depending
crazy.
on the NFL's preseason. The NFL did cut down their preseason from 4 games to 2 games right now.
Yeah, which is, I think they should do that every year. Just let's cut it down to 1 game. We don't need preseason. It's kind of awful.
I kind of disagree with that.
Really? I think even most
Yeah.
NFL teams don't want the preseason.
But I feel like the guys that are fringe
Hungry
guys
for a
want the
spot,
preseason.
yeah.
And that's why you give
Philip
them 1
Lindsay,
game.
man.
Give them 1
That's
game.
why you give them 1 game.
1
That's
preseason
not
game.
fair.
That's enough.
And then like you need some time with all the boys. Like Drew Lock needs some time to.
Well, that's what
connect.
training camp was for.
But that's not like actual games.
I don't know. I'd hate preseason. I'd get rid of it. But they haven't yet, so maybe that says something about where they do stand. But let's get into our deep dives for today. Starting in the NBA, we're talking Boston Celtics. This is a good team. They're 3rd in the East. They've got some star power. They've got Tatum. I don't know what the status is on Kemba Walker, but I like their starting 5 to me is all solid, and then I don't love a ton of what they have off the bench. But Marshall, what do you think of the Celtics?
I mean, you just said it. I love their starting 5. This is a team that I feel is the best in the East to knock out Milwaukee for a couple of reasons. For one, I do like their coach. Brad Stevens, I think, is a really terrific basketball mind. And for 2, they do have some, pretty freaking solid star power. I think Tatum's the most underrated player in the league. I think that he'll end up going down as one of the all-time greats. If you're asking me, he's still only 21 and is just getting better and better every single year. Jaylen Brown, another guy, young guy, only 23, getting better and better every year. Marcus Smart. And I do like Kemba Walker, and the word on the street that he is coming back. And if he does, then this team could be pretty freaking scary.
Definitely.
Gordon Hayward too. Obviously had that gruesome leg injury, but looks like he rebounded really nicely this season. So, but then you also hinted on it. Their bench is a little bit thin. Maybe Tackle Fall, can get in a few games and just dunk on everyone, but. Yeah, actually not even dunk, just stand up and throw his arms in the air and throw it in the hoop. But yeah, they do have some pieces on the bench. Cantor, I feel like this is, out of all the teams in the East, this is the scariest team for
What?
Milwaukee. I think so.
What?
Go ahead,
Karim
Karim.
doesn't agree.
Okay, if you put Kemba in there, obviously you got a different kind of game, but I don't. You guys are both saying that you're high on their starting five, and to be fair, I mean you got, assuming Kemba's in, you got Kemba, you got Jason Tatum, you got Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, solid players, but then you go to your center, where you're choosing between Daniel Tice and Enes Kanter.
Yeah.
That's not a
Little
great
weak at
five
center,
to have.
but 4 out
mean,
of 5 on the 5, and all 4 of them really strong.
Yeah, but then
I
they're going
like-
small ball lineup. That's like their whole goal here. It's kind of
Exactly.
like Houston.
Exactly.
But then I think it works better for them because they're not just relying on 2 guys.
That
Like
is a
their
good
small
point.
ball can actually work.
That is a good point. This is all contingent on Kemba coming back. If he's not
Yeah.
there, I mean, Marcus Smart is a good player. I'm not gonna say he's a solid player.
He's
I don't
more
know
of a defensive minded guy though.
Exactly. I mean, he's kind of like Torrey Craig in my eye. He's there for the, he can contribute, but he's really there for the.
I would say that he's a way better Torrey Craig. I mean, like Marcus Smart's defense is really underrated. And then he still puts up like decent numbers on the offensive side of the ball. He also kind of brings that edginess to the lineup, which I like.
Yeah, to me, Marcus Smart's kind of the X factor. You guys touched on the starting 5 being kind of deep. To me, Gordon Hayward and Marcus Smart need to step up a little bit if they want to go past the first couple rounds. I've touched on it in the past. I think that the 2 teams behind, being Celtics and Miami, could take out the Raptors. So I'm sticking to that. I think, they're a solid team. Not so much the depth after Marcus Smart, but I think they're solid before then.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know. So I'm not necessarily calling them a contender.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think anyone out east can beat either of the LA teams. But I think that if anyone in the East can take out Milwaukee this year, it will be Boston.
Agreed.
Okay, so then let's
Possibly Toronto.
So let's get into our verdicts then. Marshall, are you saying pretender then, it sounds like?
No, I got to give them a contender.
Okay.
Anytime that you have like a solid team that could actually make, it to the finals, anything can happen in the finals. We saw last year with Toronto. So I'll give them a contender, but a very like borderline contender. You got to get to Milwaukee first, and then anything can happen in the NBA championship. But yeah, I'll give them a contender.
All right, Zach, what do you think? Contender or pretender?
To stay consistent, I gotta go pretender, but that's also, I'm not really broken up about it. That's actually what I think. So yeah, pretender.
Okay, Karim, what's your verdict?
I think they're pretenders. Like everyone's saying, they have a pretty solid starting lineup other than their center. I know they are kind of shifting towards small ball. If Kemba can come in, I'm sure they're going to keep Kemba and Marcus Smart out. But the second you put your subs in, I don't even know half of these guys.
Yeah, that's a good point. Where do you stand on Jason Tatum, Karim?
No, I think he's a really good player. I think he's going to be really good for a really long time. I'm just like, on Gordon Hayward, I can go 50-50. Some games he's putting out, but you blew it all last season, and he's still not kind of where he was in Indy.
In Utah.
Shoot, you're right. You're right.
No worries. Utah and Indy have the same colors.
It's confusing.
But then you also have to remember
bit.
that Hayward had one of the most gruesome freaking leg injuries.
Yeah.
So
Okay, no, I understand, and I feel like they haven't really proven anything yet. The East is just a cupcake walk to go through. You really don't have that many people to contend with nightly. Other than obviously you got Milwaukee, Miami can put up a fight, Philadelphia,
Toronto.
Yeah. Other than that, you're playing fucking Atlanta and you're
Cleveland. And
Yeah.
all the bottom feeders of the league.
The fact that they're third in the East isn't like wowing me, and I think they're a couple pieces away from being really good. I think they need more of a bench presence. Like I said, you got Enes Kanter coming off the bench. Then you got Semi Ojeleye, and then Grant Williams, and
Brad
Wanamaker. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm not keeping up with Boston that much. I just have not heard of any of those guys other than Semi Ojeleye.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're actually split right down the middle for this one because I'm going contender for the Celtics, and that's mostly like the same reasons that Karim went pretender. The East doesn't impress me. I said it when I talked about the Raptors, and I'll say it for the Celtics. If they were in the West, I would call them a pretender. But in the East, it's not the same, and I think that they can get to the final because really it's just can you take down Milwaukee in the East. And I think that they have the potential to do that, which means if you can get to the final, you're a contender. I think that in the playoffs, you play your stars more, so I'm slightly less concerned about the bench, I think they have the potential to be a better playoff team than they were a regular season team.
Yeah, and Milwaukee could be the opposite. They haven't proven anything. Like, I feel like out of all the players in the NBA playoffs, like, Giannis and Middleton are probably like under the most pressure because, dude, if they can't make the finals in the next couple of years, and then Golden State comes knocking on Giannis's door,
it's scary.
What's gonna happen there, guys?
Milwaukee's an interesting team. We should do them next week or on next episode.
Yeah,
let's do that.
They are a very interesting team. They are pretty deep, and then they have the best player in basketball right now. So, but yeah, we won't really get into them too much. But still, Milwaukee hasn't proven anything in my eyes.
Yeah. So we're, like I said, split down the middle, 2-2 this time, which is the first time we've had this happen. So we do not have a perfect verdict for you. We think they could go either way. So let's talk NHL now. We talked about young stars with Jason Tatum. Let's talk about another team with young stars. The Vancouver Canucks are packed full of guys who are, ready to take the league by storm if they haven't already. You've got Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes as the absolutely massive names, but you've also got Bo Horvat, Brock Besser. You've got the slightly older presence from JT Miller and Tyler Toffoli. I like a lot of what Vancouver's got going on, especially in their top six. Zach, what are your initial impressions of Vancouver?
I like them a lot. They have strong goaltending as well, which I think we'll touch on later.
Definitely. Markstrom's an
there's a couple contracts on this team that I do not like, but they're far in between, like Louis Eriksson, obviously an awful contract.
Yeah.
And, players that I really like, Bo Horvat, he reminds me of maybe a lesser Landeskog. I think Bo has another step to take to become that veteran leader, that kind of like a Landeskog player. But yeah, the young stars on this team are unreal, and bringing that veteran support really bolsters their lineup.
Yeah. Karim, what do you think of Vancouver?
Nah, dude, I like them a lot. Other than the Avs, I think they're my favorite team to watch in the West. So
I would agree with that.
You got like star power, you got just consistent team play.
Yeah. I've said this a few times now to these guys. I think Elias Pettersson might be my favorite player in the NHL to watch. His hockey IQ mixed with his skill for being such a, small and kind of slim type of guy is absolutely insane. And he plays pretty responsible on his own side of the ice too. He kind of reminds me of a Datsuk, and I think could be like a Selke contender down the line, and then obviously a Hart contender. Like, I think it's going to be 2 or 3 years before Pettersson inserts himself into the Hart conversation on a consistent basis. But then you guys touched on it. They do have a lot of other guys. I really like JT Miller. He was a guy that I was kind of hoping the Avs would take a look at.
Yeah. Insane year this year. 72 points in 69 games was kind of not out of nowhere for him, but quite a breakout for a guy of his age.
Yeah. Then you have Hughes, who's going to be like a Norris contender with Makar and Dahlin and Heiskanen and all these guys that are coming up. The young defensive talent in the NHL right now is pretty freaking fun to watch.
And Marshall and I were talking about this last night. The 2021 class, might have 4 top 10 picks on defense. So it's just the defensive talent is just keeping on the rise.
Including another Hughes brother, Luke Hughes.
Luke Hughes.
So it'll be kind of interesting to see how he does next season. He had a pretty solid year at the NTDP this season. It's going to be fun to watch the Hughes brothers. After this year, when Hughes is not competing with McCarr, I told Billy this. These Hughes brothers are going to be one of my favorite guys to watch just because they're American bloodline, and all 3 of them can be pretty freaking solid stars in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not giving up hope on Jack yet.
Right.
No, I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent there. But then, another guy is Toffoli came in, got hurt, but has been a really solid pickup for them.
Point per game in Vancouver, 10 points in 10 games.
Yeah, he tore up the Avs right before he got traded.
And the Stadium Series, he took us down a little.
Yeah, exactly. I was at that Stadium Series game.
There's a couple things right now that I don't like about them, though, that I really think are going to be a detriment in their attempt to. Yes, exactly, Billy. I just looking at the lineup is just really bad bottom 6 wise. I can just see Roussel, Eriksson, Beagle, all negative or even players in the plus minus category. Yeah. Not good enough. Enough.
I was looking at the lineup and preparing for this, and Jay Beagle's one of those guys. I was like, he's still in the NHL.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's playing. Looks like all the games for them. He's played 55 games this season, so they really need to do something with that 3rd, 4th line if they are going to contend.
Definitely.
But you can find those players throughout the draft. You can trade for those players. These are players that you can come across decently easily. So I'm not too worried about them going forward.
Oh, absolutely not. I will say this, in comparison to last week's team that we did, the Edmonton Oilers, I think they have more depth than the Oilers.
Yeah.
Oh, clearly. Yes. Yes.
And that's not saying too much, but still.
Yeah.
And they have the goaltending, like Markstrom. I know we were waiting to kind of touch on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk about Markstrom. Markstrom, a guy, honestly, a Vezina candidate this year. He was incredible. Yeah. But he's coming off knee surgery, so what Markstrom do we get? Do we get Vezina Markstrom, or do we get a kind of somewhat hobbled Markstrom? What does it look like? What do you guys think? Marshall, what do you think?
I think that we'll get a pretty solid Markstrom. I mean, he's had a lot of time to rehab now. But then even if it doesn't work out, Demko has proven that he belongs in the NHL.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a high-caliber starter yet, but he was a pretty highly touted prospect. Mm-hmm. Took him a little while to get going, I guess. But then he kind of took over the reins after Markstrom went down. I mean, they've kind of had like 4, or I guess actually it was only those 2 guys. But yeah, if Markstrom comes back and he's like a legitimate threat, then this Vancouver team could be pretty scary. But even if he doesn't, I think Demko can at least like help him steal a few games.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. Oh, go ahead, Billy.
Oh, go ahead. That's all I had.
I think you touched on it. Their goalie situation is good. Demko to me is, like you said, not yet there, but a goalie that I think will get there eventually. And another goalie on the roster, Louis Domingue, he can come in and win some games. Played earlier this season in looks like Anaheim, and played decently okay. So he's a guy that looks like he's a serviceable backup in the NHL, I will say.
And exactly. And I think if you're on Louis Domingue for a long time, then you're screwed. But if if Markstrom got hurt and Demko's nicked up for a couple games, and you have to throw Louis Domingue in there, you might be okay. You're safer.
He's serviceable.
You're safer than like the Avs would be throwing in Hunter Miska or something. So I like that. Karim, what do you think? How do you feel about their goaltenders in Vancouver?
I mean, everyone's pretty much said it. I think Demko can. I mean, obviously he's been doing pretty well this season. So, I mean, just getting more exposure. Obviously, if Marshall comes back and he can play, that's great for the Canucks. If not, they still have. They're not really shafted on the goalies.
Yeah.
As much as losing a high caliber player.
Yeah,
and a little bit more on Demko. I think you need to release the leash a little bit on him. Let him have a little bit of free reign out there. Markstrom, to me, I guess I don't really know how old he is. He is 30, so he is not,
30.
I would say, the goalie of the future for the Canucks. It's probably going to be, they want it to be Demko.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can get that going and give him a little bit longer leash and see what he's got out there.
Yeah. Where I'm at. Oh, go ahead, Marshall.
I mean, I still think Markstrom has another 5-6 solid years in him. But then if Demko can come out and prove that he's like ready to take the reins, then Markstrom will be a pretty interesting trade piece.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's you want Demko in a perfect world. Demko is your starter moving forward, not next year, but you know, in the future, you want Demko to be your starter. But you're definitely not upset if you have Markstrom for 5 years.
Right? Yeah. No.
Yeah. And I think
Demko was 24, so that's a 6-year difference there. So I think they definitely want Demko.
Yeah, you
And
want
they
the
also
younger
have
guy.
DiPietro.
Is he on their roster, really? I didn't even
Michael
know that.
DiPietro.
Oh, a different
Michael DiPietro. He was a 20-year-old, another highly touted, prospect, goalie prospect. I'm pretty sure he was Canada's goalie in World Juniors.
Interesting.
Okay.
Sign him 20 years, man.
Yeah.
So for me, basically,
Exactly.
Markstrom's knee question would be a much bigger question for me if they didn't have Demko, because I'm kind of at the point where, well, either they're getting elite goaltending out of Markstrom or they're going to be getting solid goaltending out of Demko. So I don't think it's a huge deal. I think that they're looking better than most teams in goaltender at the goaltender position, regardless. Let's get into our verdicts here. Actually, no. Before we get into the verdicts, I want to talk Calder race. I want to see where everyone's at. Hughes and Makar, we might be a little biased. You might have noticed that we're all Avs fans. Okay. The difference to me is that watch Makar play, and the eye test is just off the charts. I go back to that play. I can't even remember who it was. I think it might have actually been in Vancouver. No, it was against Vegas. It was Makar's little head fake on the power play.
Dude,
every time the Avs run the power play, they drop it back to McKinnon. But instead, Makar swings back and then fakes it back, goes all the way around Vegas for a breakaway. He didn't end up scoring, but just the things that he'll try that no one else will try, it's incredible to watch. And Hughes, obviously, elite talent. He's going to be a Norris candidate for the next 10 years, just like Makar. To me, I don't know, I give Makar that edge.
Yeah, I would have to agree, but I think this race is really close.
Yeah.
But, dude, just imagine if Makar had gotten, half of the goals that he was supposed to get when he was hitting all those posts.
Right.
20 more goals.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think he hit, at least 15 posts this season.
He led the Avs in posts. I know that.
They were keeping track on altitude. It was a lot throughout the season.
And also imagine if he had played all the games, because he was hurt for a little while.
Yeah.
Right.
He was almost a point per game.
Yeah, to me,
He was
Makar...
a point per game for most of the season.
Right.
Sorry, Zach.
Yeah, Makar wins the Calder. Not easily. It's an interesting vote. From what I've seen on Twitter, I think Billy touched on this a few shows ago. But from the responses I've seen online and talking to other people, it seems like Makar has a slight edge here.
Yeah,
so,
if I were betting, I'd put it on Makar.
I would
but
too.
But that's not a knock on
like you say,
Hughes.
Billy, the eye test, I think you're also referring to the X factor. Makar coming in and scoring a goal in his first playoff game, in his first NHL game. That's
second shift.
That's unreal. Not that Hughes doesn't have elite speed, shooting, skating, all that stuff.
Yeah,
He does. Just Makar is just that extra little bit of hockey IQ and agility to me.
Dude, he's the McKinnon on the back.
Yes.
I've said it plenty of times. Sorry, Vancouver fans, if this makes you mad, but we're taking Makar.
Yes.
But let's ease the pain here. Let's get into our verdicts. I'm going to start it off by saying Vancouver is a contender. Not a high-end contender, but a contender. I think they're going to have a hard time when they get into the big three out west, which I view as Colorado, Vegas, and St. Louis. But I think they can easily get through I don't know about easily, but I think they could get through the rest, and it only takes, one big upset. So I think that they are a contender, not a high-end contender, but I think they're a contender.
I would agree. I think that they're a contender. Like you said, not a high-end contender. But I do like their roster a lot more than Edmonton's. They're definitely not up there with the Avs or the Blues or the Knights. But it would not surprise me if you could see Vancouver going on a little bit of a run here, knocking out one of those 3 teams, especially if Markstrom can heat up.
Yeah.
I mean, this team has a bunch of talent, and Pettersson is just only getting better by the day.
Definitely.
Right.
And another thing, Besser might be coming back, right?
It sounds like he will be back.
Interesting.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I got to go probably pretender on these guys,
Ooh,
just because
okay.
their bottom 6 is so abysmal.
That's
And
they're not
their
deep.
bottom 3 defense, or their bottom pairing defenseman is not too hot either. Not that you're really relying on those people to win, but the bottom 6 forwards, you kind of are relying on them to play their part. And this team just does not have that depth. So I'm going to have to go pretender on these guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, Karim, where are you at?
I think they can contend just based off of, I mean, just this whole NHL situation. I think benefits Vancouver.
Yeah.
Just because now they're not gonna really rely on placement. And I mean, one upset earlier on kind of will help Vancouver down the line. So
Right. Adding
We'll
on to
see.
that, I feel like this is a team that can, win the play-in and then win one round. Without that bottom 6, it's really, really hard for me to see you guys winning a second round, let alone a conference championship. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah,
fair.
no, it's a... Either way, though, this is a team to look out for.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're
in the future,
scary.
for sure.
One of those teams, they're oozing talent. Like, Pedersen, I think Marshall's a little bit higher on Pedersen than I am. I think that he's a 90-point guy in his career, and I want to see him get to that 100-point
Right.
plane. And I think Marshall views him as a 120-point guy.
I absolutely 100% think that he is.
Right.
Like,
I got
there's
one.
not-
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say there's not a doubt in my mind.
So I just got one more thing to add about them. It just takes, one off season like the Avalanche where we get Burakovsky, Kadri,
Yeah.
Donskoy. It takes one off season like that for these guys to be a legit contender. So
Absolutely.
I wouldn't count out next year or a couple of years down the line when money frees up. I know that they are very rich right now and they have one seriously bad contract. So they have ways to make moves.
They
How
do.
much longer do they have that Eriksson contract?
I'm not sure how long,
believe
but
it's
I would
2 or
bet
3
it's less than
years.
less than
Let
3
me
years.
pull it up real quick.
But, yeah, this is going to be one of my favorite teams to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, dude, I love watching Patterson play. He makes people look silly. I just remember a play against the Avalanche that he set Besser up from, his own zone on, a breakaway that he bounced it off the inboards. It would have been an icing, but he saw Besser just ripping it and just set him up, and Besser was on a breakaway and scored. It was one of the sickest plays I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And that,
Alright.
From that moment forward, I'm like, dude, this guy is going to be
He's definitely got talent.
really, really good.
So it looks
the
like Louis
Eriksson
Eriksson's
contract,
okay,
2
you
more
got
years.
it.
Oh, we both looked at it.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
2
you
more
got
years
it.
after this.
Which that's pretty solid.
At
What
6
is his
mil though,
contract?
at 6 mil. That's way
Yeah, it's a
bad.
real bad deal. They traded
Yeah.
they traded another contract for it, didn't they?
They made a really bad trade here for sure. I don't remember who they offloaded, but it was not a good pick or a good trade at all.
Yeah, but they still have a bunch of cap room right
Right.
now. I mean, Pedersen's going to eat up a bunch of that probably here in the next couple of years. I think he's up for extension next season, right?
He'd be the same year
Next
as
summer?
Makar. Wouldn't he?
But Pedersen played a year earlier.
Oh, then he's up for an extension now.
Well,
Well,
he's up for an extension
Makar
now,
lost
but he-
his ELC year for
Oh, that's
jumping in the
true.
playoffs. So they're both.
Yeah.
He can get an extension now, but it doesn't kick in until the following year. He could get an extension this
Yeah.
offseason if they get proactive about it. He's eligible.
But there's only one more year on his ELC, right?
He has to have an extension by after next year. So, all right. So that's where we stand on Vancouver. Any closing thoughts on this episode before we go ahead and get out of here?
Not for me. No.
Yeah, I
Just
think
ready for sports to get back.
I think we broke it down pretty good right there.
Yeah. All right, Karim. Any last words here?
Nah, man.
It sounds like I kind of sound like I was gonna murder you there. I'm not gonna murder you. Just want to close the episode.
I appreciate it, bro.
All right. Thanks to everyone for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're having a good time putting these on YouTube. I think it's the best place to watch. But hey, also check us out on iTunes if you just like the audio. We're also on Spotify. Find us anywhere. Support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/off_brand. And we'll see you all on, I don't know, whenever our next episode is.